Hello, this is part 2 of installing picture frame molding. If you missed part 1, definitely go back to see how I planned, prepped, and cut my trim to get started with installation. Also, refer to my blog posts on this project, which go hand in hand with the videos. It was difficult to get good angles on installation sometimes, so please bear with me throughout this video. The first couple of times I installed this molding, I measured and marked lines on the wall, but this ended up being overkill. The only thing you need is the starting corner. My example here has margins of 3.5 inches, so I found a good straight 1x4 and made sure that it had a straight cut on the end. I then marked it on both sides, 3.5 inches from the end. You can simply hold the board up to a guide, such as a window frame. I mark my starting corner, and then that is where I place the end of my starting piece. I prefer to start with either the top or the left-hand boards and work from left to right. With the end at my starting corner, I can push the board up against my spacer and nail it in with my nailer. If you don't have a spacer or guide, just put the end of your board in the starting corner and use a level to be sure it's straight. Then you can nail from there. I grab my next piece and apply glue to the back. Once I line up my 2 miter cuts, the piece should be in good position. I use my level to be sure and then nail it in. I do not worry about finding studs with this trim, as it is light and it will be further secured with glue and caulk. Next, I move on to the third side, which for me is always the bottom. Similar to the second piece, I line up my miters, check for level, and then secure with just 1 or 2 nails. This leaves flexibility on the other end to be able to get a tight fit on the last corner. I hang my fourth piece, again only nailing at the end opposite my last corner. At that point, I can push the 2 pieces together and finish nailing the last 2 sides. Here is another example where I use miter clamps to hold the piece in place. These clamps give really tight corners. Once the clamp is on, it's easy to nail in the 4th piece at the top. I can add a clamp to the last corner and then finish nailing the 3rd and 4th pieces as needed. One thing you will probably need to deal with is obstacles such as light switches and outlets. Depending on where they fall, you may need to just notch out the trim, like I did here under this outlet. I used my Dremel multi-tool to cut out the notch, then did a dry fit and made adjustments as necessary. If the outlet had been lower, I could have simply cut out that section and allowed the trim to dead end into the outlet. One thing I wanted to avoid in my dining room was having the trim project out farther than the outlet. I decided to change out the outlet covers to ones that had a thicker trim piece around the outside. These covers are also paintable, so I was able to match the wall color and have them disappear a bit better. Now that everything is installed, it's time to make everything look professionally finished. The first step is to be sure that all nails are seated below the surface of the trim. Use a nail punch if needed. Next, fill all of your nail holes with wood filler, then sand them down smooth once dry. A sanding sponge works great for this. After sanding, I vacuum and run a tack cloth over everything before caulking. I caulk around all sides of the trim, careful not to use too much caulk to preserve the clean edges of the trim. Just run a thin bead, then run a wet finger over the bead to smooth it out. Do not use too much pressure. You can then finish everything with the top coat to cover all wood filler and caulk. And that is it. If you're anything like me, you're already looking for the next place to complete this fun project. Be sure to subscribe and check out my blog for full details on this project and many others.